This is Masati again with Exponential Intelligence, XI, Human Potential Sciences, and it is, again, the fastest way to transform your life. And to get you started, in this episode, we're going to be talking about, well, the XI basics, or definitions that we need to understand for you to have, say, an efficient transformational, experience with XI. Everybody sees things from a very different perspective. So just to get everybody on the same page, so we're starting to see or look at the same thing in the same way. It's highly efficient. Whether you're starting your path on, say, self-development or a relationship or anything like that, those definitions need to be defined, right? So again, we're all looking at the same way, in the same direction. For example, frequencies. What does that mean? If you're a musician, frequencies would be different to you than, if you weren't a musician or somebody else, right? So an XI, a frequency, and it goes to the base level frequency, and I'm not going to get into the science of it, but just enough to gloss over so you can get your feet wet on, say, the self-development with exponential intelligence. So frequency is just that. It's a frequency that you resonate at, okay? So everything in exponential intelligence is a vibration, if you think of it that way. Everything in this reality is a vibration, no matter what it is. If you look at a color, right, there's a certain frequency that resonates. A certain frequency has to resonate in a certain way or a certain modulation for it to turn out to be yellow. Or if you put it on an oscilloscope, you can see that, gold, for example, resonates at a certain frequency. A piece of wood, like, say, oak, would resonate at a certain frequency versus, a wood that is, say, birch or, walnut or something else. Everything resonates, again, if you could test it, or if you could put, an oscilloscope to it, it would resonate at a certain frequency. Okay? So colors, right? Sounds, everything that is created, again, is created of frequencies. The origination of everything that's here is a frequency. So there's surface level frequencies, the bigger, say, particles that resonate as frequencies, which is basically billions of minute, say, frequencies, or in quantum mechanics, they call it strings, right? That get together and they glob on together, and it gets into, say, bigger frequencies, and then it creates, say, a reality or density for you. So in XI, the frequency is about your base level frequency. So this goes beyond, the definitions of, like, spiritual frequencies, like, your etheric body or your auric field, or, the frequencies that your heart resonates at or sends out. This goes to your frequency blueprint. So the origination, so the core, say, the base level or the foundational frequencies that you, say, can render or create life here. So that's what we're talking about. You change your frequency at that core level, you change your life drastically and very efficiently. Okay, so just to clarify, so what that means is that XI changes you beyond, say, your cellular structure or your DNA level. Okay? If you can think of your DNA as a blueprint of your physical form, right? Your hair color, your eye color, the curliness of your hair, the color of your hair, all those things are in your DNA. That's why somebody, say, can clone you and then recreate a representation of you, right? Identically. That's how they do it in animals and what have you, in plants and so on. Well, from my studies, again, over a decade of research with one-on-one interactions with over 100,000 people. Again, that's a lot of, say, case studies, right? One-on-one research of over 100,000 people. I've started to realize that your DNA holds more than just, your physical structure, your body shape, your heart issues, your not heart issues, or whatever. It starts to, say, indicate your personality. It indicates how you see your, say, relationships. It indicates on how, say, how abundant you come. It indicates, it's an underlying programming about everything that you experience life here. So that's the level of, say, frequency, or the definition of frequency that I'm talking about. It goes beyond your DNA. Your DNA is just a representation of the underlying frequency or the underlying, say, power I would call it a consciousness, okay, that creates a frequency, that creates, say, your DNA structure, that, say, creates that blueprint, right? Your DNA is a blueprint that creates, say, your life existence here, including your physical shape, your hair color, your eye color, your behavior patterns, how you see your life here, how you experience your life here. All those are encoded. So again, going backwards, everything that you experience life here is not a result of your habits, your belief systems, your psychology, what you've learned. Everything is based on all those things that I talk about, again, habit, psychology, and everything else that you think that you need to change for your life to, say, take a different path. Those are all surface levels. What you need to do, and that's why they take so long, what you need to do is, again, is change your core level frequency, not at the DNA level, but beyond, right? And this is where you get fantastic results. This is where you can say, people have shifted, terminally ill diseases. They've transformed for that. That's how effective it is. People have become, say, millionaires, again, transforming, where before they couldn't even hold on to, a dime. They transform. Again, that's how powerful it is. And when you change something at that level of frequency, there's no way in hell that nothing can stop you from, say, becoming your best possible self. Okay? So continuing on, what does, say, distortions, because I talk a lot about distortions. Distortions are how you see your reality. Okay? So what does that mean? There's only one reality. And again, it gets a little deep, and I'm just going to gloss over it, although it's still pretty deep. So there's only one reality that exists in time and space. Okay. Now, again, if you don't understand time and space, it's okay, but just listen to it. Okay. And as you get into it, you'll understand why space-time is so important. Because again, this isn't psychology. This isn't a belief mechanism. This isn't, saying your prayers and all that stuff. It's just straight out science. So there's only one reality. Okay. There's one reality that exists, okay? The closer you are to that reality of purity, okay? The closer you are to your grander version of who you are. I call it your pure presence, okay? So your pure presence, in other words, some people might label it as your spirit, okay? But I remove myself from using spirit because it's distorted. There's a lot of, say, ill definitions on what spirit is. So it would be your higher consciousness, your higher self, your grander version, your limitless self, the power within, the force within, as Yoda would put it. So all those experiences, again, that's your pure presence. So the closer you are to this one reality that exists, okay? Say that you were the sun or you were a light, okay? And you're reflecting this light, okay? That would be you. That would be your pure presence. And then every layer within that experience of you, okay, is a filter or a distortion of, say, the version of who you are originally. So imagine that, and we'll go deep, I guess. So the first distortion that we would have, or the first filter that we would have from your, say, pure presence or your grandest self, is of time and space. So you have to understand how, say, this reality works, okay? And again, we'll bypass that. The next level distortion is you being human. Okay. So there's a filter for being human. If you didn't have that filter, you wouldn't know how to create your body, right? If you had a filter of, say, a squirrel, you would render yourself as a squirrel. That's how it works. So that's a filter or a distortion. From that, say, a human. So a human filter, okay? That means that everything that happens to humans is in that programming for you. The next layer, again, you have the light here. The next layer, that first layer is time and space. The next layer is humans. The next layer is, well, your culture, okay? Or, your culture or the time frame. Again, these are all, say, filters on how you see or how you experience this reality here. The next big layer would be, for example, if you're a woman or a man. Okay, and then your experiences. So again, these are all global settings. So there's a filter within a filter within a filter within a filter, and it comes down to, well, your life experience here. Okay, your life experience here, for example, say you've gotten abused when you were like 4, 5, 6 years old, right? From that point on, say at 6 years old, from that point on, you would see your reality through that abusive filter. Does that make sense to you? No matter whether it's a good filter, whether it's a bad filter, that's not the point. If you had the most joyous experience when you were whatever age, you would see the rest of your life again through that filter. So with every experience, you create more and more filters or more distortions. And again, distortions doesn't mean good or bad. It just means that from your pure essence or the purest version of who you are, it's a distortion. Again, it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. It's a distortion, okay? So some people go, well, I'm just happy. That's not a distortion. Well, it actually is, because your definition of, say, happiness would be very different than if you were an awakened being happy. And again, trust me, it's very, very different. You go, well, I'm in love, or I feel love and I'm loved and all that stuff. You are. But again, it's a distortion or a definition on how you experience love, because people experience love from a very different perspective. So getting down to, say, your understanding of it, your definitions of love, your definitions of hate, your definitions of, say, becoming a mother or being a mother, your definitions of being a father, those are all distortions. Those are all definitions, because in its pure form, it's very different. And I stress, it doesn't mean that, well, I'm a loving person. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm not saying there's anything right with it. But is there a higher version of yourself being in love or feeling loved? That's the key, right? Are you experiencing your full potential when you're experiencing, say, that love experience without the distortions? So that's what distortions are. Moving on, we'll go to, say, patterns. Okay? So if you look at your life, there's always a pattern. Okay? When people want to change their life, they look at, say, life events, specific life events. You know, they'll always pinpoint, say, some specific thing that happened or some specific event that happened that changed the course of their life, right? If it wasn't for this, this wouldn't have happened, or I wouldn't be that person. And you hear it all the time with, people who are highly successful. This one event changed my life. It's not the event. I'm not discrediting them, but again, it's not the event. From my research that I've done, it's patterns. Okay, so let me explain the difference. So patterns are, and usually we have one or at most two patterns. And if you have more than two patterns, you really definitely need to see me, okay, for a special session. But that's outside of that. But there's usually one or two patterns that people run. Okay, and you might think, well, my marriage is different than my career, and my career is different than who I am as a man or a woman, and who I am as a man or woman is different than my religious beliefs or non-beliefs and so on. It's all the same. It's a single pattern that dictates every aspect of your life, right down to the way you brush your teeth, right down to the way you look at yourself in the mirror. It's the same pattern. Okay, again, those patterns turn into, so those single distortions that I talked about earlier. Okay, you put them together. You put your life experiences together. Okay, life events. If you look at your life events, say, and we can do it right now. Just take a deep breath in, and whether you want to close your eyes or not, it's all good to me. Go back to, say, 0 to 7 years of age. Is there a general, say, essence that comes through you? 7 to, say, 12 years of age. Is there a certain, say, essence that comes through you, right? You can pinpoint it down, right? So from 12 to, say, 18, is there something? Again, not a single event. But if you add those series of events together, you'll start to see that those series of events create a pattern of your life, right? Look at that. One pattern builds on the other, and then the other. But again, it's the similar patterns, right? Or it might be more expansive. Look at your life from 20 to whatever age that you are currently. And you'll see that, again, it's a pattern that's happening to you, not the single event. Most people rely or pinpoint a single event. They got married, they got divorced, they got pregnant, they got abused. But, for me, when I look at you and I can analyze you, I know you, I know more about you just by analyzing you than Google would, Facebook would, the government would, your mother would, you would. I know all about you, and again, it's a good thing because I help you really reclaim yourself. Okay, I don't do it to abuse you or distort you or anything like that. But it's like, oh, these are the distortions or the patterns that you're running, again, which is a series of distortions that you're running that's not benefiting you well. Let's go ahead and say edit or rewire you. When I say edit or rewire, what does that mean? So when I say edit or rewire you, say that you got abused, okay? Or you got shortchanged somehow, or you were left alone as a child, or whatever it might be. And again, it goes deeper than that, because if you look at your, say, family lineage, right? It's carried on over from that. And I'll talk about that in the next episode, about, say, where you got your patterns, and confirming deletions or moving away from that. But say that, so say these patterns, say something happened to you, when you were younger, as you go forward, that pattern of yours, right? You can't change or you can't remove that experience. It's written in time, right? It's written in your history. Again, you can't change what happened. But what exponential intelligence does for you is that, yes, that happened to me, but how can I benefit from it? How can I grow from it? Right? And that's the key. So most people associate something that's, say, devastating to an experience that they've had. With XI, again, you can't change what happened to you, but you can transform it. So although it might not be the best experience that you had, you can transform it into an experience that could, say, enhance and expand you. And as you redefine what happened to you in your earlier years, time is dynamic. It transforms and it shifts all the filters that we talked about earlier. Remember, we talked about distortion. Again, those filters that you see your life. So your present moment on how you see your life from this moment on, say, rapidly or drastically transformed. Because you're not seeing yourself as an abused person. You're seeing that, yeah, something negative happened to you or something positive happened to you, and then you grew and expanded from it. So that's the key. And I just want to get back to that one point where I said that, every successful individual or an individual goes, this happened to me and it changed my life. If you listen to enough, self-improvement gurus and so on, they're always like, this happened to me, or, I was born poor and this and this and this, and I learned from it. You could have been born rich and you did this and this and this and learned from it. The key is that it's not the experiences that transform your life. Because you look at the billions of people here, they have the same experiences, but why are those individuals, again, the same experiences? There's a group that would have the same experience as you, and they're not like you. Say they're not successful. So why is that? So we can't rely on that, right? Because it's not proven. It doesn't replicate itself. So the reason why, or the difference on that pivotal time or the event that's happened to you is because you were awakened at that point. So when you had that experience, something happened to you where you, again, connected to your original self, okay? That pure version of who you are. It allowed you to delete the filters, and then that's what changed your life. It wasn't the life experience, although that life experience might have impacted you enough to awaken you. But the key is, it's not the life experience. It was the awakening moment. That awakening moment allowed you to see things from a different perspective. And I say that because people are, especially if you listen to a lot of, say, self-improvement individuals or, success habits or success patterns, is like, shit, I need a big life event to change my life. You don't. Because people will listen to my story and go, well, shit, this guy had 2 near-death experiences, and that's what changed them all. You don't have to have that. You don't have to go through that experience. All you need to do is become aware, okay? Become awake of what you're doing each and every day, and you'll see that you don't need a massive event to help you change. You can change with whatever's happening for you now. As long as you're awakened and as long as you're experiencing, again, even brushing your teeth, combing your hair, as long as you're awakened doing whatever that you're doing at, say, the most base level, it'll guide you into an awakening moment. Again, remove all this distortion so you can be your best, grandest possible self. Look for more definitions on the next episode of XI. As we end, notice what you notice, and then notice the details of what you're noticing.